You put your name on every document I handed you. Now those signatures mean something. Now they are legally binding in a court of law. I work in corporate law, dealing mostly with companies that need to keep their finances clean and above board. My wife Jessica ran the marketing department at a medium-sized company. We had been together for 8 years, married for most of that time. I always thought she understood one thing about me. When I say something, I actually mean it. I do not make threats just to sound tough or get attention. Every word that comes out of my mouth has weight behind it. So, that Tuesday morning, when we sat across from each other at the coffee shop we always went to, I looked her straight in the eyes and told her something important. If she invited her boss, Brandon, to her birthday party, our marriage would be finished. Done. Over. I was not being dramatic or jealous or insecure. I was telling her exactly where the line was and what would happen if she crossed it. It was a warning, plain and simple. The kind you give someone right before they make a mistake they cannot take back. She laughed at me. Not just a little chuckle either. She threw her head back and laughed like I had just told the funniest joke she had ever heard. "Relax, Michael," she said while scrolling through her phone, barely looking at me. "He is just my mentor." Mentor. That word came out of her mouth like Brandon Murphy was some kind of business genius sent from heaven to guide her career. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking about the text messages he sends her at midnight. Messages that say things like, "Wear the blue dress tomorrow, that is my favorite." But what do I know? I'm just the husband who pays for half of everything and apparently exists only to nod along while she tells herself whatever story makes her feel better. The thing about Jessica that made me want to pull my hair out was simple. She could not tell the difference between someone who respected her work and someone who wanted to sleep with her. Every compliment seemed genuine to her. Every long look was just appreciation for her brilliant marketing ideas. Every late-night text was just Brandon being dedicated to the team. She was either completely blind to what was happening, or she chose not to see it. I had stopped trying to figure out which one it was. I could see the disaster coming from a mile away. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. You see it happening, you know how it ends, but you cannot do anything to stop it. Welcome to the end of your marriage, I thought. Jessica had this habit that drove me absolutely crazy. She would come home and sit on our couch telling me about her day, how Brandon praised her presentation, how he asked for her opinion on some new campaign. And she would just glow. Her whole face would light up like someone had plugged her into a wall outlet. I kept quiet most of the time because if I said anything, she would just lecture me about how I did not understand office politics and how important networking was for her career. Sure, sweetheart, network all you want, just do not act surprised when your networking starts looking like something else entirely. But here's what Jessica did not know. What she never bothered to ask me about because she never really cared about the details of my job beyond asking, "How was work?" Murphy & Associates Marketing had recently popped up on my law firm's radar. There were some questionable things happening with their money. Nothing proven yet, just red flags here and there. The kind of thing that makes lawyers like me start going through paperwork late at night with a calculator and a highlighter. And I had just gotten assigned to the team looking into it. Talk about a conflict of interest, the kind that could end careers if someone did not handle it correctly, the kind that made my wife publicly celebrating her boss look really, really bad for everyone involved. While Jessica spent that week planning her party, ordering shiny balloons and a custom cake shaped like her initials, because apparently that is what sophisticated people do, I was planning something completely different. I opened my laptop, pulled up a secure browser, and started putting together some documents. Call me paranoid if you want. I call it being prepared. I had spent 8 years watching Jessica bend rules I did not even know existed. She's charming, I will give her that. She can walk into any room and have everyone eating out of her hand within 5 minutes. They laugh at her jokes, they agree with her ideas, they think she's wonderful. It's a gift. A gift that helped her career but made my personal life complicated. Because when you're that good at making people believe whatever you want them to believe, The lines start to blur. What is real? What is strategy? What is just Jessica being Jessica? And what is Jessica making terrible choices that will blow up in both our faces? The party itself was exactly what I expected. It looked like someone had combined a corporate event with a wedding and given them unlimited money to spend. There were multiple champagne fountains, because apparently one was not enough for turning 33. A live band played smooth jazz versions of pop songs. Purple and gold lights were set up all around our backyard, making everything look expensive and perfect. This was not just a birthday party, this was content for social media. This was her chance to show everyone on Instagram that she was successful and admired and living her best life. I stood near the bar, because if I was going to watch this disaster unfold, I needed something stronger than the flavored water the catering staff kept offering. I looked around at the guest list with detached interest. Her co-workers were dressed like they were going to a charity gala. The neighbors looked uncomfortable in their fancy clothes. Her influencer friends showed up with their phone stands and ring lights, already filming everything for their stories. Jessica worked the crowd like a politician running for office, touching people's arms, laughing loudly, making everyone feel important. She wore the blue dress. Of course she wore the blue dress, the one that Brandon had texted about, the one that cost more than what we paid for electricity and gas combined. She looked stunning. That was never the problem. The problem walked in at 8:15, fashionably late. I saw Brandon before Jessica did. He paused at the entrance to our backyard like he was waiting for someone to announce his arrival. Brandon Murphy had the kind of confidence that comes from thinking the world owes him something. He strolled into the party wearing sunglasses even though it was evening, because apparently his eyes were too special for our decorative lighting. He carried one of those oversized gift bags with tissue paper exploding out the top, holding it like it contained something incredibly valuable. His suit probably cost $3,000, perfectly tailored to fit him. His hair was slicked back with expensive product. He had that constant smirk that guys develop when they spend too long believing they are better than everyone else. I watched Jessica's face light up when she spotted him. She excused herself from whatever conversation she was having and practically floated across the yard to him. They hugged. Too long, too familiar. The kind of hug that makes everyone watching feel like they are seeing something private. He said something in her ear that made her laugh, that real, genuine laugh she used to say for me back when we actually had things to laugh about together. Then he handed her the gift bag like he was presenting her with an award, and I gripped my whiskey glass tighter. The party continued around me. People talked loudly, the way they do when they have had a couple drinks and think they are more interesting than they actually are. At one point, Jessica's friend Monica came up to me, already tipsy, saying how lucky Jessica was to have such a supportive husband. I smiled and nodded and wondered if she had recently hit her head. Then came the moment I had been dreading. Jessica climbed up onto a chair, actually climbed onto a piece of furniture like she was about to give a speech to the nation. She clinked her champagne glass with a fork. The crowd got quiet, everyone turning to look at her. She was glowing, absolutely radiant with all that attention and champagne. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," she began, her voice carrying across the yard. "But there is someone special I need to recognize, someone who has been an incredible mentor, supporter, and friend." My stomach dropped. I knew exactly what was coming next. "Brandon, come up here." She held out her hand toward him like a queen summoning one of her knights. He moved through the crowd with that insufferable confidence, while people clapped politely, probably confused about who he was and why he was getting special recognition at someone else's birthday party. Jessica raised her glass higher, her smile bright enough to light up the entire neighborhood. "Brandon, thank you for everything you do, for believing in me, for pushing me to be better. I would not be where I am today without you." The crowd cheered and raised their glasses, completely oblivious to what had just happened. But I heard it. I felt it. It was the sound of something breaking. Not loudly or dramatically,
but with quiet finality. I did not make a scene. That is not who I am. What would it accomplish? Yelling at my wife in front of 50 people while Brandon stood there smirking? No. I had a better plan. One that required patience instead of emotions. I smiled, the kind of smile that does not reach your eyes. I finished my whiskey in one swallow. Then I walked over to where Jessica was still standing on that chair, still basking in her moment. I leaned in close enough that only she could hear me over the music. Happy birthday. Then I walked out. Not dramatically, not with a door slam or a speech, just efficiently, like I was clocking out of a job I hated. I grabbed my keys, walked through our house, past the catering staff, past the coats piled on our bed, and got in my car. The music faded as I pulled out of the driveway, and for the first time in months, I could actually breathe. Rachel did not call that night. Not one text message asking where I was or if I was okay. Nothing. Complete silence. I guess when you are the star of your own show, your husband doesn't really matter. I was just background scenery. Technically in the scene, but replaceable. I drove around without any real destination. I ended up at a 24-hour diner off the highway, the kind that smells like old coffee and regret, where waitresses do not ask questions when a guy in a dress shirt shows up alone at 10:30 looking like he just witnessed his own funeral. I ordered coffee that tasted like it had been sitting there since the 1990s and sat there watching my phone not light up. It was fascinating in a dark way, watching the minutes tick by and realizing she genuinely did not care where I was or if I was coming back. She was probably still at the party, still holding court, still pretending everything was perfect. But while she was cutting cake, I was cutting ties. I pulled out my laptop, connected to my phone's virtual private network, and got to work. First order of business was our joint credit card, the one we opened 3 years ago because Jessica insisted shared finances were healthy for marriage. I logged into the account and hit the freeze button. Done. Every transaction she tried to make would be declined. Then I moved my business account, the one with my consulting fees and salary deposits, and rerouted everything to a new account I had opened last month at a completely different bank. I had watched too many guys get cleaned out by wives who decided that what is yours is mine applied to bank accounts, but not to loyalty. Next came the locks. Our house was in my name. I bought it 2 years before meeting Jessica. When we got married, I added her to the title because that is what you do when you love someone. But the mortgage, all me. Every payment, every repair, my money, my credit. So changing the locks was not a power play. It was a boundary. I called a 24-hour locksmith and arranged for them to come out first thing in the morning. Cash payment, receipt under a different name. But the real masterpiece was the email I wrote. I sat in that diner booth and composed what I can only describe as art disguised as professional correspondence. Subject line, conflict of interest, urgent. Short, professional, devastating. In the body, I kept it brief. Per company policy regarding conflicts of interest and potential ethics violations, I am submitting formal disclosure of a personal relationship that may impact the ongoing Murphy & Associates marketing review. Please find attached photographic evidence requiring immediate assessment by the Ethics Committee. Then I attached a photo. Not just any photo, the perfect photo. Someone had posted it to Instagram and tagged both Jessica and Brandon. There they were, smiling at each other like they were the only two people at the party. His hand on her waist, her hand on his arm, both holding champagne glasses, looking like a couple celebrating their anniversary instead of a boss and employee at a birthday party. The beauty of the photo was its ambiguity. It did not show anything explicitly inappropriate, but it showed enough. The body language, the closeness, the casual intimacy. And in the context of a company under legal review, with me as a reviewing attorney and her as an employee who just publicly declared her boss her most special person, that photo was a bomb. I addressed the email to 3 people: my supervisor, the head of legal review, the ethics officer. Then I hovered over the send button for exactly 30 seconds, giving myself time to reconsider. But then I remembered her standing on that chair, raising her glass to Brandon while I stood there like a ghost at my own wife's party. I clicked send with zero regrets. It was nearly midnight. I paid my bill, left a generous tip, and headed to a hotel. Not fancy, just clean and quiet, with a bed and a lock on the door. I checked in using my business credit card, the one Jessica did not have access to, and lay on the bed, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. I waited for guilt or regret to hit me, but it never came. Instead, I felt relief. Pure, simple relief.
4 days. That is how long it took Jessica to notice I had not come home. 4 whole days of her posting Instagram stories from the office, sharing motivational quotes about being a boss, presumably enjoying the afterglow of her party while I sat in a hotel room eating room service. 4 days of absolute silence. No calls, no texts, no "Are you alive?" check-ins. The level of not paying attention required to not notice your husband has vanished was almost impressive. When she finally showed up at the house late Thursday afternoon, I had taken the day off work and was sitting in the living room with bourbon that was probably too expensive for 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I had spent the morning arranging things, setting the stage. I heard her before I saw her, that confident clicking of heels on the walkway. She was humming like she had just won Employee of the Year. The door opened. She still had her old key. She walked in like she owned the place, tossing her designer purse onto the couch. "Did you miss me?" she asked in that playful tone, like this was a minor misunderstanding and we were about to kiss and make up. I looked at her over my glass, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. "Sure," I finally said, my voice flat as concrete. "Like I miss food poisoning, or jury duty, or that root canal without enough numbing medication." Her smile faltered. She opened her mouth to respond, but then she noticed something. Her key was still in her hand. She had used it, turned it, felt it move in the lock, but something had felt wrong. "Michael," she said slowly, looking from the key to me, "did you change the locks?" "Boundaries, remember?" I said, settling back in my chair. "You said they're healthy. You said we needed better boundaries. Those were your exact words during our last therapy session, which you skipped, by the way. So I took your advice, and honestly, you were right. Life-changing, even." She stood frozen in the entryway, looking like someone had just told her gravity was optional. I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to figure out if this was some kind of test. "I do not understand," she said, sounding genuinely uncertain for maybe the first time ever. "Let me help you," I said, gesturing to the coffee table where a thick brown envelope sat with her name written across it. "There's some reading material. Consider it a belated birthday gift." She moved toward the table like she was approaching a bomb. She picked up the envelope with shaking hands. She opened it carefully, pulled out the papers, and scanned the first page, then the second, then back to the first. "This is our prenup," she whispered. "But it is different. These terms—" "That's the updated version," I explained. "The one we signed a year ago when we refinanced the house, remember? You were so busy with that campaign launch. I told you we needed to sign some paperwork, and you said, and I quote, 'I trust you with anything, babe. Just tell me where to sign.' So I did. Your signatures are all over that document. Very official, very legal, very much enforceable." She flipped through the pages frantically. "This says I am not entitled to anything. The house, your retirement, your business assets, everything is protected. This is not what we agreed to when we got married." "You are right," I said, standing and walking closer. "When we got married, we agreed to be faithful. We agreed to be partners. We did not agree to invite our bosses to birthday parties and call them our most special guests while our spouses stand in the corner like decorative plants. But things changed, did they not? Circumstances evolved. I adapted accordingly." "You tricked me," she whispered, clutching the papers. "You lied." "I told you we needed to sign paperwork for the refinance, which was true. We also needed to sign an updated prenup, which I mentioned was included. You just did not bother reading what you were signing because you were too busy, too distracted, too confident I would never do anything that was not in your best interest. You said you trusted me with anything, so I trusted that you would not read the fine print." Jessica tried pretending nothing happened for about 18 hours. She spent that night in the guest room, which was generous of me to allow. She came out the next morning acting like we just had a minor disagreement about dinner plans. She made coffee, did her makeup, got dressed in a power suit, and headed to work like everything was fine. I worked from home that day because I had a feeling things were about to get interesting. I sat up in the home office with fresh coffee and anticipation. I had sent that email 4 days ago. 4 days for it to circulate, for the ethics committee to meet, for people above my level to start asking uncomfortable questions. The call came at 10:47 a.m. I know the exact time because I was watching the clock. I heard Jessica's phone ring, heard her answer in that professional voice. Jessica Collins speaking. Then I heard screaming. Not her screaming, Brandon screaming. I could not make out exact words, but I did not need to. The tone was unmistakable. That specific pitch of panic mixed with rage that people hit when their world is falling apart. "What?" Jessica's voice cut through the house, confusion turning to alarm. "Brandon, slow down. I cannot. What do you mean? The company? What lawyer?" More screaming from his end, loud enough I could hear it even though I was not on the call. Perfect timing. Absolutely perfect. My email had made its way through proper channels, the ethics committee had reviewed the photo, looked at it in relation to the ongoing Murphy investigation, and realized they had a major problem. One of their attorneys was married to an employee of a company under review, and that employee had publicly demonstrated a personal relationship with the chief executive officer. They had done what any responsible legal department would do. They had escalated it, notified senior partners, pulled me off the review, and assigned fresh attorneys to the case. Attorneys with no personal connections, no reason to show any kind of favoritism. And those new attorneys had apparently found some very interesting things in Murphy and Associates Marketing's financial records. I heard footsteps, fast and frantic. The door burst open. Jessica stood there, phone clutched in her hand, face pale, eyes wide with panic. "Michael," she said, voice shaking, "Brandon is freaking out. He is saying something about lawyers and investigations and freezing accounts. He is saying this is my fault, that I—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "What did you do?" I leaned back in my chair. "Me? I did not do anything illegal. I simply followed protocol. When I realized there might be a conflict of interest between my professional responsibilities and my personal life, I disclosed it to the appropriate parties. That is in my job description. It is what ethical attorneys do." "You reported us?" Her voice cracked. "You told them about Brandon and me?" "I reported a potential conflict of interest," I corrected. "I submitted photographic evidence of a personal relationship between an employee of a company under review and that company's chief executive officer. The fact that the employee is my wife is unfortunate, but irrelevant. The fact that you made that relationship very public, very obvious, and very questionable in terms of professional boundaries, well, that is on you. I just provided documentation." She stared at me like I had grown a second head. "You are ruining everything. Brandon's company, my job, my career. They're going to think I'm involved in whatever they're investigating." "Were you?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Part of it? Did you know Brandon was cooking the books or changing numbers?" "I did not know anything," she shouted. "I'm in marketing. I do not have anything to do with financials." "This is revenge," she said, realization dawning on her face. "Because of the party, because I invited Brandon." "I am not jealous," I interrupted, standing up. "Jealousy requires caring about something enough to want to keep it. What I am is done. Done being an afterthought in my own marriage. Done watching you prioritize your boss over your husband. This is not revenge. This is consequences. There is a difference." Her phone rang again, Brandon's name flashing on the screen. She looked at it like it was a live grenade. She did not answer. The phone kept ringing, insistent and angry. "You need to fix this," Jessica whispered desperately. "Please, call them back. Tell them it was a mistake." "No," I said simply, returning to my chair. "I am not fixing anything. This is the bed you made. Time to lie in it. Although probably not in this house, since, legally speaking, you do not live here anymore. You might want to start looking at apartments." Jessica's career crumbled faster than her fancy cake. Within 48 hours of Brandon's panic call, everything fell apart. Their biggest client, a tech startup, pulled their account completely, just sent a brief email saying they were reevaluating partnerships in light of recent developments, and took their six-figure contract elsewhere. Then another client left. Then another. It was like rats abandoning a sinking ship. Except the rats were Fortune 500 companies suddenly very concerned about their reputation and eager to distance themselves before scandal stuck to them too. Human Resources got involved next. They flagged Jessica's profile for review, which is corporate speak for we are building a file in case we need to fire you. They started asking questions about her relationship with Brandon, whether any promotions had been influenced by their personal connection, whether she had ever received special treatment. Jessica came home ranting about how unfair it all was, how she was being persecuted for something she did not do. "It was just a party, Michael," she would scream while I made dinner. "People invite their bosses to parties all the time." "Sure," I would say, not looking up. "People call their bosses their most special guests all the time, too. Totally normal." But the real nail in the coffin came courtesy of a blog called Corporate Confessions. Someone submitted the story of Jessica's birthday party to this gossip site for office workers. The article went live Tuesday morning with photos from Instagram, screenshots of Jessica's toast, a detailed timeline, and spectacular commentary about professional boundaries. The headline was a masterpiece. "When Birthdays Become Evidence, a Marketing Director's Guide to Ending Your Career in One Instagram Post." By Tuesday afternoon, it had been shared 8,000 times across LinkedIn, Twitter, and every platform where bored office workers congregate. The article dissected every aspect of the party, from timing to guest list to the unfortunate appearance of a married woman effusively praising her married boss while her husband stood in the background looking miserable. LinkedIn erupted. Marketing professionals Jessica had never met were writing think pieces about boundary violations. Human Resources representatives were sharing the article with commentary about what not to do. Her colleagues were conspicuously silent, quietly unfollowing her profile like she had contracted something contagious. The memes started Wednesday. Someone created a most special guest template with Brandon's face edited onto inappropriate scenarios. Another person made a corporate bingo card with "toasting your boss at your birthday party" as the free space. A creative soul edited the Titanic sinking scene with Jessica's face on the ship and professional reputation as the iceberg. Even Jessica's intern, a 22-year-old kid named Tyler, posted an animated image from the office with the caption, "When your boss's birthday invite turns into a human resources investigation," and got 5,000 likes in 3 hours. Jessica tried to delete everything. Her Instagram post from the party disappeared. Her LinkedIn profile got scrubbed of photos, including Brandon. She tried to get Corporate Confessions to take down the article, threatening legal action, which just resulted in them posting an update with screenshots of her threatening emails and a new headline, "Marketing Director Threatens Blog Proves She Still Does Not Understand How the Internet Works." She called me during this digital disaster, voice tight with panic. "You ruined my life," she shouted. "Everything I have worked for is gone. My reputation is destroyed. This is all your fault." I was at the gym on a treadmill, having the best workout I had had in months. "No, darling," I said casually. "You did that with good lighting and bad decisions. I just provided documentation. The internet did the rest. That bingo card was particularly inspired, though." She screamed something about betrayal, how I had violated her trust, how I was vindictive. Then she pivoted to threats. "I am going to sue you. My lawyer says I have grounds for intentional infliction of emotional distress." I stopped running, took a drink from my water bottle. "Please do. Take me to court. Put everything on public record. We can depose Brandon, get all those midnight texts admitted as evidence, really air out every detail for a judge to examine. And when you lose, because you will lose, I will bill you for my legal fees and emotional damages." Brandon showed up at my house the next day looking like he had gone 12 rounds with reality. His eyes were bloodshot, tie crooked, expensive suit wrinkled. He was breathing like he had just watched his stock portfolio catch on fire. I heard the doorbell, checked the security camera, and almost choked on my coffee seeing Brandon on my porch looking like a before photo in an anxiety medication advertisement. I took my time getting to the door, letting him ring twice more. When I finally opened it, I just stood there, sipping coffee with polite curiosity. "Where is she?" he demanded, voice cracking. "Where is Jessica? I need to talk to her now." He tried to push past me, but I blocked the doorway. "Good morning, Brandon," I said pleasantly. "Beautiful day, is it not? Would you like some coffee?" "I do not want your damn coffee," he shouted, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "I want Jessica. Do you have any idea what you have done? The company is falling apart. We are hemorrhaging clients. The board is calling emergency meetings. Lawyers are crawling through every document. This is your fault." "Is it?" I asked. "Because from where I'm standing, I just disclosed a conflict of interest. Everything after that was people doing their jobs. But you know what destroys companies? Fraud, financial misconduct, cooking the books while your marketing director publicly celebrates you and creates a paper trail any first-year law student could follow." Jessica appeared then, wearing expensive workout clothes like dressing well would fix reality. Brandon whirled on her. "What did you make him do? They found major discrepancies. Human resources is in meltdown. Half the staff quit yesterday. Our biggest investor pulled out this morning." "I did not know anything," Jessica stammered. "I'm in marketing." "That is not what it looks like," Brandon shouted, hands shaking. "It looks like the chief executive officer and his marketing director were having an inappropriate relationship. When the company got investigated, her husband conveniently disclosed everything to protect himself while throwing us both under the bus." I cleared my throat. "I did not throw anyone under any bus. I informed my employer about a personal connection to a company under review, which is required. What happened after that is consequences of choices you both made. I am not the villain. I'm just the guy who pulled the fire alarm when the building was already burning." Jessica turned to me, genuine horror in her expression. "Please fix this. You know people. You have connections." "I am a lawyer, not a wizard," I said, amused. "I can't make fraud investigations disappear, but even if I could, I wouldn't. I'm done enabling your stupid decisions. This is your mess. You figure out how to clean it up." Brandon took a step toward me, looking like he might try to hit me. "You self-righteous fool! You destroyed everything!" I looked him dead in the eyes. "No, Brandon, you destroyed everything because you couldn't keep your books clean or your hands professional. I just documented it. But please, keep yelling. The neighbor has her phone out. This will make excellent content for the Neighborhood Watch Facebook group." Brandon stood there, cycling through emotions before landing on defeat. "Everything I built is gone," he said hollowly. He turned to Jessica. "This is your fault, your need for attention. I hope it was worth it."